Jason Morrison joining us. And Jason, great to see you. Happy Boxing Day, and I hope you had a great Christmas. I mean, have I got it kind of right? You're allowed to disagree if you want.
Oh, look, we're probably 70% on the same track here. I think the left is going to have to try very, very hard to get inside the family unit. They're trying like all buggery, but they're not going to break it. It's too strong. And, we could have had this sort of conversation 20, 30, 40 years ago with the same doomed predictions. But I think when it comes down to it, fundamentally, the values of Christmas and the unity that comes in the community are just Australian values. It's not a religious comment there. That is just simply a statement of reality. We like to come together. We like to be together. We like to reflect on the things that are traditional. And traditional values are very strong. That's why they are traditional. And I think it's going to take a lot more than the useful idiots like Chris Bowen and others to kind of hook up together and to take the sledgehammer to the very, very strong bond that is the family and the unit of friendships that keep our society so strong and together.
Thank you for the optimism and thank you for the hope, because, I mean, my Muslim friends, my Buddhist friends, my Hindu friends, they all wish me Merry Christmas. They're not offended by any of it. Yeah. It just seems like people who don't want to believe in anything are the ones who want to be offended on behalf of others. But look, let's talk about this Chris Bowen bloke. Well, actually, he's not the only Grinch that's in government. Queensland's new Premier, his name is Stephen Miles. His leadership as Premier has now been put to the test. A result of the first poll since he became Premier is out, and it shows that the Liberal National Party is on top with a two-party preferred vote at 51% over the government's 49%. But while opposition leader David Crisafulli is the front runner in the preferred Premier stakes, 53 to 47. Jason, to ensure a win, the Liberal Nationals actually need 56%, not 51. Yeah. The electoral boundaries in Queensland are pretty dodgy. David Crisafulli knows there's less than 10 months to go, and Labor, well, they're going to scratch and fight from here, aren't they?
Yeah, I look at that, and that's actually quite shocking for, I'll call him the outgoing Premier, Mr Miles. It's shocking for him because he's had 9 years to sort of get to know each other. He's had the highest profile roles in Queensland, really, to get to know the public and for them to get to know him. And they kind of pretend, he hasn't been talking much about himself, so this is the time for him to do it. BS, he hasn't been talking about himself. Just about everything's been through the prism of self-interest over the last 9 years. Those self-interests or those of his support base, that being the union self-interest. So I think most people have figured him out pretty quickly. To me, and look, you can tell by my backdrop, I'm a New South Welshman, so I guess you'd expect me to have this view about him. I don't think particularly highly of the man. I think he looks juvenile in the job. I think he looks immature when he's handling important issues. He has that sort of Cheshire dopey grin on his face when he's talking about important stuff. And whenever he's talking about stuff that doesn't matter, he's kind of in full actor mode and pretending to be really serious. Now, people will say, what sort of political analysis is that? I mean, it's a fair point, except not everyone sits down and analyses things politically. People look at the face value of political leaderships in times when, frankly, side A and side B aren't that much different. Which, of course, brings me to the result in Queensland of 1998. You'd remember it very well because you would have been a fresh-faced member of the federal parliament at the time, looking at what was going on in Queensland, when, 22% of Queenslanders voted for one nation out of nowhere. Things like that happen in Queensland because people get the SHITs very quickly in Queensland and they figure out the phonies. And I think what happened in Queensland back then, everyone's got a view on it, but there was a lot of disillusionment. There was disillusionment with the Liberals and independently the national parties, which they stood aside at the same time then, and the Labor Party didn't feel like the right fit then. There are a whole lot of people that were anywhere but the other two. And I'm not going to suggest that's going to happen this time in Queensland, but just remember it can. And remember, it because it can, and it has in the past, as a prospect, a remote prospect, that people will go places they don't normally go in elections. Don't just assume it's product A, Labor, and product B, Liberal National.
Yeah, I agree. Queenslanders have got a great sniff test. They look for the strongest leader. And so it really is now up to David Crisafulli, who's saying he's the underdog. And it's a fair enough claim because, as I said, he's got to get to 56%. He's still short. No chocolates yet. Now, Usman Khawaja, who transferred to Queensland from New South Wales in the Australian cricket team, is today fighting back against the International Cricket Council for rejecting an application for him to display a peace dove on his bat in the Boxing Day test. supporting Gaza. But Jason, I have a theory. What he's done wrong here is said, look at me, I'm going to do this. If he'd actually just done it, maybe he might have got away with it. But it all came after Cricket Australia told the opener not to wear a pair of shoes with freedom is a human right and all lives matter written on them in Palestinian colours. I mean, it is in many ways a double standard because other players put other symbols on there, but they're not drawing attention to themselves before they start sticking stickers on the bat, are they?
No, spot on, absolutely spot on. If he had just done it, he would have got a fine, perhaps from the ICC, or nothing at all, or the Australian team could have unified behind him, or Cricket Australia could have just said, don't touch our guy. We actually support what he does. He's allowed to do it. But you're right, look at me. It's the sort of got to create a stir, got to create controversy. I mean, we're seeing on the images there the gesture that's shown there on Marnus Labuschagne's bat. He's a deeply religious Christian man and wanted the world to know some aspect of it. As I recall, there wasn't a hell of a lot of fuss about that. It just happened. And I think that's where Khawaja's gone off the tracks here. Look, he has, I'll say, a little history here of wanting to stand out a bit and have principled stances on things. But frankly, who can blame him? Cricket Australia has done this to itself. I mean, we go back one chief executive of Cricket Australia, and we wanted to abandon Australia Day because we were worried it would upset certain people. So we kind of did away with the Australia Day weekends. So, you know, politics has been pushed into cricket for a long time. So I'm not surprised that people like Khawaja in the team and others who've got a bit of a bugbear about things, and let's face it, the captain's one of them too, have not tried to enforce their politics through the game. I'm a cricket fan. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what I would rather be watching right now, but, you know, we're going to the cricket tonight. My son and I, we're on our way right now to go to the cricket.
Good on you.
I love it. I absolutely love the game. I don't like what's being done to it. And I think a lot of people are like that. They just want the game back. They want the stars back. They want Australia to be great at the game once more, which we're just about there again. Can we just have the game, please, and stick the politics where it should be? On places like this, on channels like this. Perfect place. Usman, take a seat.
Absolutely. Simple message, Uzi. You're not Kath and Kim, you're Khawaja. It's a different K. Just get on with the cricket, which starts with a C. Meanwhile, big storms in Sydney. Obviously, with the Sydney to Hobart yacht race on the 103-strong fleet, hammered by a violent storm. Extremely early stages and very tight. Do you enjoy this entire exciting event in Sydney to Hobart?
I love the courage of the people that go out and do it, and I love the spectacle of it. And I mean, it's totally removed from me. I look at the boats. I'll never own a boat like this. I'll never be invited on one of them, even for an afternoon. They're incredible people and courageous at all of that. I have done Sydney to Hobart, and a lot has changed in the 25 years plus since I did it, and I could tell you, looking at the amount of safety, conditioning, and training that goes on, and the athleticism. I mean, we're all old fat guys going out with eskies back then. It was a very big different sort of scene to what it is now. It's genuinely athletic and generally safety focused, and that's a good thing. Too many guys lost their life. Far too many.
I guess what happened. 25 years ago, the 1998 race, of course, 6 people lost, 5 yachts sunk. It was an awful time. A lot was learned from that. Jason, thank you so much for your time. Jason Morrison.